Watch, Newt Gingrich just released his plan to lock Hillary up for life. Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, had been coming out with some great ideas lately, and he seems to be on the same page as President Trump. During an appearance on FNC's Fox and Friends, Newt explained, "What has changed? This whole thing is now so totally one-sided and basically a witch hunt, and because the Democrats have done so, the political environment clearly demands Hillary Clinton's crimes be addressed." Gingrich goes on to make the point that Hillary Clinton willfully destroyed 33,000 emails, but all the Democrats can talk about is Donald Jr.
As we bring in Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House, Mr. Speaker, what she went on to say is, look, this president never sends mixed messages. So I read that as he is sending not a mixed message, but a clear message to the Attorney General. Do you think he's saying you need to go?
Well, no, I think what he's saying is exactly what his message says. He's saying that you have the Clinton Foundation, you have the swap for uranium with the Russians, you have millions of dollars coming out of a secret Canadian foundation that was funded by the Russians. You have Bill Clinton getting a $500,000 speech in Moscow. You have the list. I think what he's saying is, why isn't there a parallel investigation? And I think, frankly, that if Sessions, who's not recused on that issue, were to announce that they were going to investigate what did happen, you'd see a little bit of relaxation. This whole thing is now so totally one-sided and basically a witch hunt. And you saw that a little bit yesterday. I mean, there were people suggesting that a clerical error which was fixed within 12 hours was somehow comparable to the Nixon 19-minute tape erasing. Right. I mean, this is the kind of insanity that the president has faced every single day, and I think he's lashing out because he thinks that the current system is so totally one-sided that somehow it's got to be fixed. And I suspect that's why he brought in Scaramucci, to have a fighter who's going to push very hard to reset what the story is.
Sure. So, well, to some it looks like he's saying, hey, Jeff Sessions, you recused yourself. I didn't agree with that. That was last week. This week it is, hey, why not investigate Hillary Clinton? But, Mr. Speaker, a lot of people, shortly after he was elected president, we heard the president say, you know what, I'm not going to go after her, the Clintons, because they have suffered enough.
Sure.
And wait, oh, they're not going to go after her and him and all the other people involved in the campaign who might have broken the law. And now it sounds like the president wants a do-over on that idea.
Well, look, the president's now had 6 months of watching the establishment go after him relentlessly, dishonestly, with a whole series of falsehoods. And he's saying, wait a second, you know, if we're going to attack Don Jr. for one 15-minute meeting, what about the fact that her campaign chairman's brother was the registered lobbyist for a Russian bank?
Sure.
What about the fact that they had this uranium deal? We'll see what Secretary of State. I mean, in a sense, the left has brought on itself, creating an environment in which it is now totally reasonable to go back and reopen the whole Clinton Foundation story and ask, if we want to look at Russian influence, there was a lot more money going to the Clintons by any standard than anybody has even begun to allege in any way affected the Trump operation, particularly since nobody's found anything yet that affected the Trump operation. To the, you know, Andy McCarthy, who's a great former prosecutor in the Justice Department, keeps writing pieces where he says, there's no crime here. How can Mueller be an independent counsel when they have yet to define a single crime?
Sure. So, Mr. Speaker, is someone like Rudy Giuliani, whose name has been floated, better positioned to come in and take a fresh look at a Clinton investigation? Is it time for someone new to come into the Justice Department?
Well, I think we have to watch the next couple of weeks. I mean, the president has his own unique style. It wouldn't be my style, but it's his own unique style. He's given Sessions a clear roadmap to survive, and it's a roadmap of balancing the investigations, which I think would be legitimate. And I hope that the Sessions will understand and follow that. I personally would strongly recommend against firing Sessions. You know, loyalty has to be a two-way street. The fact is that Jeff Sessions was the first senator to support President Trump. He stayed with President Trump when he was 10 points behind, and all the way through the various sports talk tapes and everything else. Sessions has been remarkably loyal to the president, and loyalty, I think, has to be a two-way street. But I do understand why the president's frustrated. Frankly, I'm equally frustrated with the Republicans in Congress. I mean, why do we have these committees that are designed with a New York Times, Washington Post agenda? Why aren't they also looking into, let's look at total effort by the Russians to influence American politicians, in which case you have to start with Bill and Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation and Clinton as Secretary of State. And let's look at people who have changed things. 33,000 emails destroyed, but somehow we're worried about Don Jr. I mean, there's something totally out of sync with how this story is evolving.
It's definitely frustrating for the Republican voters, the ones that put President Trump in office. When it comes to health care, they're equally frustrated when it comes to health care as well. Now, the Senate is reconvening today. They're going to vote on whether or not to open debate on repealing and replacing Obamacare. How do you think they're going to vote today?
Well, let me say, first of all, if anybody can get the vote, it's Mitch McConnell, who wrote a great book called The Long Game, which I recommend to everybody, as a really interesting memoir about himself and about the Senate. My hunch is they're probably going to get to 50, but I think Mitch is playing the long game here. I think if they can't get to 50, then he's going to turn to Senator Alexander, who chairs the Health Committee, and he's going to say, all right, we clearly can't do this on a narrowly partisan basis. Let's break it up into 3 or 4 bills, find a way to have bipartisan bills that can pass, and let's keep moving forward. I don't think this means that health reform ever ends. It's just because it can't end, because Obamacare is collapsing. So it can't end. But it may have to go a different route. I think McConnell's hopeful that they'll get to 50 today. Right. They'll have some votes and amendments, and they'll get to 50 to actually pass a bill, which I suspect the House will take basically intact, whatever the Senate does, just out of exhaustion at this stage.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the vote today on whether or not to proceed, the motion to proceed, it could reveal a number of Republicans who have been saying one thing for years. Yeah, I'm going to vote for it as soon as I can. It turns out they've been fibbing all along.
Well, you know, I think they may not have been fibbing, but I think this is part of the president's frustration. He arrives as a businessman. He looks at guys who for 7 straight years have said repeal. He looks at people who have actually voted for repeal over and over. I mean, the one person who has a you cannot attack is Senator Collins. She voted against repeal, said it wasn't practical when it happened. She's the one person whose record allows her to say, I'm not doing this. But everybody else, if you were Donald Trump and you were a business guy looking around going, what's wrong with this scene? You'd want to hold up how many times somebody said, vote, I'm for repeal, and ask them, so you're not going to vote yes to go forward? And you said it this many times? Yeah. I think he's got a fair complaint here. Not just, this is one of the problems with Washington.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, in recent days you've been direct about saying win or lose here on health care if the Republican Party does not quickly get to tax cuts and get that done by the end of the year. You may have Speaker Nancy Pelosi next year because the Republican base may be so frustrated. And on the flip side of this, if you actually get tax cuts, you're going to see the economy really start to roar. Is that a reasonable timetable that they can get tax cuts done by the end of the year?
I think they need to spend all of August focused on economic growth, take-home pay, job creation. Then I think they need to have the House mark up a bill in September, the Senate mark up a bill in early October, signing ceremony no later than Thanksgiving, a bill which is retroactive to January 1, so the middle-class tax cut could arrive by Christmas, giving people a huge boost in the economy, and with, I hope, a 15% corporate rate and a pass-through for small business. Very simple bill. I mean, part of my point in papers I've been writing and circulating to leadership is we have proven for 7 months we can't do anything complicated, we can't do anything fast, and we can't communicate very well. So you better design a game plan on taxes that allows you to have a simple bill, easy to explain and understand, that you get done by focusing on it so that you have a boost in the first and second quarter. If we're the party of jobs, prosperity, take-home pay, and economic growth, we will win 2018, pick up 5 or 6 Senate seats, and be in a much stronger position going into 19. If we are the party stumbling around, unable to get anything done, and the economy weakens, then I think you could have Speaker Pelosi, and that would be a nightmare.
Oh, yes, it
Newt
would.
Gingrich, we thank you very much for joining us down there in suburban Virginia, sir. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
If the Democrats want to pretend that they care about Russian influence in our election, then they have to talk about the real connection between our politicians and the Kremlin. Consider this your notice, Democrats. Gingrich is happy to call out your hypocrisy on the whole Russian matter. It's long past time you realized we all see right through you. President Trump has done absolutely nothing to conspire with Russia. Hillary Clinton, however, had a uranium deal and a campaign manager with disturbingly close relations with the quasi-socialist state. More Russian money has passed through Bill Clinton's hands than anyone has even alleged President Trump has touched. It's clear Democrats don't care about Russian influence. Republicans do care about those who would sell out our nation's interest to the highest bidder, whether it's the Russians, the Saudis, or others. That is why Hillary Clinton's crimes are back on the table. Gingrich thinks our Attorney General will get there, so he doesn't recommend firing Jeff Sessions. Sessions has a long history of loyalty to Trump. Gingrich clearly doesn't think that the Attorney General meant to move against Trump by recusing himself. His recusal doesn't stop him from investigating Clinton's crimes, and President Trump is trying to encourage him to step up and start that process. Maybe in the interest of the unity of the nation. President Trump once wanted to leave Clinton's past alone. Clinton and the deep state haven't slunk away in shame the way we all expected them to. It's time they realize they should have. Absolutely, absolutely, totally agree with this. You think they'd go away? No, they're still at it. So now it's time to bring it back on the table. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.